Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Monday Night Plastic Crack Podcast. So if you're coming to expect anything else, you're at the wrong place. It is Season 5, Episode 24. And it is a very, very wet and warm Surrey. I don't know about anybody else. What's it like for you guys?
It's a very drippy and muggy East Anglia. Well, Bury St Edmunds anyway.
Ooh, drippy. Nice.
Warm and not so moist up here.
I mean, there is so much rain. You'll probably hear it in the course of this broadcast because it is absolutely bouncing off the top of the roof here. I can't believe how wet it is. It's bloody July. What is going on? How are we doing, gentlemen? We all well?
Aye.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Not too bad. Just painting and colouring in lots of epic miniatures before a game.
Doing your colouring in. I love it.
It's all it. Yeah, they do work on these little pens. They do make doing this is the silver ones going along and doing all the helmets and things is quite makes life a bit easier.
In case anybody thinks he's got a little colouring in book, he's actually using the AK pens to paint figures. So there you go. That's what we're doing.
I would rather. I think the colouring in book could be quite fun.
Ah, dear. Yes. I'd like to get hold of some of those, but yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about them, I'm sure, later on. So thank you to everybody watching tonight and joining us for our normal merriment on a Monday night. Thanks to all those joining on the catch-up as well. We love you too. A reminder that we are sponsored by our friends at Boards and Swords in Derby. Remember to use the PCP5 code to get an additional 5% off any of your purchases there with Ian and his good team over there. Let's see who's in the house. Glenda's agreeing with you. Good evening. One's all from a damp and humid Finland. Yeah, I think. Yeah. John's. Oh, you're a bit cooler there, mate. Today, only 34 degrees.
Only 34?
Okay. Only 34. Good grief.
Shit. I went over the line. You've
got to keep inside the lines, you know. That's the first rule of colouring in. Rich is in a rainy and damp Stratford-on-Avon. No hobbying tonight, just chilling and listening. Welcome anyway, Rich. Thank you very much indeed.
I understand the words, but not the concept of that.
Well, no hobbying. It's absolutely dripping in wherever that is with Paul. Where is that?
Crockerberg.
I hope you just misspelt that. That's all I'm saying.
He's probably drunk.
Probably drunk. Yeah, probably drunk. What else have we got here? We've got Don is no modelling tonight. What's going on with you lot? No modelling. That's 2. I hope there's some letters coming in and giving you some excuses.
Mojitos.
No. Outback, cutting down a brush in the backyard and currently trying to recover with a half a gallon of water, followed by briskly with mojitos. Well, I suppose we'll let you off, mate. We'll let you off. Mark says it's mostly moist Buckinghamshire. It's more than moist here, I have to say.
Mostly
moist in the way that Moses would realise. Not Moses, yeah, Moses. He did water as well, didn't he? Yeah. Anyway, what else we got here? Martin says it's some showers. Okay, fair enough. In Jersey, yeah, the King and Queen were there, weren't they today? I saw them on the news, getting wet.
There's a new. We got. First long-time stalker, but first time catching us live at a piss wet through Peak District.
Yeah, no, I've been very, very wet in the Peak District many times.
I don't know a time I've ever been to the Peak District and it hasn't been this way through.
I think there's a wall as you go through into it. It just starts raining, doesn't it? It's like a curtain of rain. That's what happens. Just happens like every single time. Yeah. You come out the other side, it opens up and it's no rain, but you go back in, it's raining.
It's a couple of friends of ours got married there. Got married last year, and they this amazing place with all the ground. You know, the grounds were lovely. And no one went outside because it just peed it down the entire weekend. Like, everyone was really surprised. But why?
Why would you be surprised?
It all the time.
Elaine and I went there for New Year a couple of years ago, and it did literally rain the entire time. It's brilliant. you know,
anytime I'm into Buxton, it just rains. It's just me, but it's a very rainy place.
Aled says it's the weather forecast is so bad in South Wales. He's thinking of going back to work early so he can rattle prime some figures in the hangars. I love it. What's we got here? Oh my goodness. Someone's talking about Ridley Scott again. Oh God, no, we're not going to go into that.
Was he in the chat as well?
Apparently so. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Is it what? What's happened? What? We're talking about Gladiator.
Mobile and Hostile says, evening everybody, it's summer and I've had to put an extra layer on. He's doing his bolt action SDK 250. There you go, good man. It is.
I know what that is.
Do you?
What that is. Yeah, it's the half track thing, isn't it?
Yes.
That's it. Well done. Lazy Pirate says it's very wet Bristol and he's painting Perry AWI.
That's always wet and all. I've been
Bristol.
there like 5 times and always got piss wet through there, but I've been.
Yeah, funny enough, I think I'm the same. Yeah. Well, so go to Bath. It's not always wet, but in Bristol it always is. Ian says it's grey and wet East Midlands. My goodness me. Welcome. Well, it's a good thing you're here then, isn't it? Who else we got here? Got Stoic Steve. He's here. Nathan's in. Double Dip, the best name. What else we got? Dutch Army Painter. Good evening, sir. Old School FRP. Hello, mate. Robin's in the house. Best behavior, everyone. Dietrich says, afternoon. All feels like 43 degrees here in Baltimore. I think I'll stay inside. 43 degrees.
43. No.
Hell's bells.
That's just wrong. That's wrong. That's against
wrong on every level.
Yeah.
It's raining in France. That's good. Best place for it, I reckon. Best place for it. Cabowell Johnny says, evening all from a wet and windy Wiltshire. What else we got? Captain Aqua. He should be in the rain, shouldn't he? Captain Aqua. He says, managing to avoid the rain for the most part, despite today's forecast. Well, lucky you.
That's amazing.
Captain Aqua. Love it. Simon says, it's a rainy Buckinghamshire after an equally wet Sheffield at the Joy of 6 yesterday. So he's bringing the rain with him. Well done, mate. Good job. Oh, God. The weather. David said the weather is a bag of rebels. Everybody is avoiding the orange one. The strange, avoiding the orange ones, the rainy bits. ACW Cav. I don't understand that one, David. I don't know. I'm a simple man, and I've already started on the white. So there you go. What else we got here? Another one. Oh no, that's the same one. Okay, sorry. Oh God, let's just scroll through. Why does it always happen? Hex Saint says, whenever you mention the sponsor's name, I always hear boards and swords. Makes me wonder what discounts we might get.
This is broads.
Broads
is broads and swords.
Broads and swords.
Hey, well, that's a very niche sound.
That is a niche website, and I don't think they'll give you a discount on those. You never know. I doubt it.
Notoriously expensive.
Paul says, actually, that's an Anglo-Saxon name for rugby. It meant Hawker's Fort, apparently. Sounds like a great name for a lager, if you say so, mate. Brilliant. Carl says it's wet here in Saddleworth. Oh my goodness, it's rain everywhere. Don, you will need a raincoat, probably thermals for Derby in October, mate. I'm just saying. Might need a boat after last year, to be honest.
I was in Waitrose today grabbing my lunch. It was the nearest shop I could find, and I was on the deli eyeing up their Scotch eggs.
Oh,
and I very nearly bought a one that had what you call it, blood pudding.
black pudding.
Yeah,
black
pudding.
pudding.
It's probably a black pudding like crumb on the outside of it, and I saw it was £7.50.
How much?
How much?
How much?
Oh
How
my
much?
goodness.
I'm sure it was delightful.
I'm sure it was, but that's £7.50 for a Scotch egg. That's wrong. Nick says, evening all. He thought there was no show tonight. You guys enjoying the sun or the local karaoke bar? No, we're on here. We're here. We are here.
That's next week.
Really?
That's
Next week. There's no show. Next week. David is in Buxton, funny enough, so that's
all right.
Which is a beautiful place.
Oh, it's lovely,
Just a
lovely
bit wet.
place.
Just a bit wet. What else we got? George is in a soggy East Anglia. It's a common theme here. Daniel's out in Spain, so I bet it's not moist there, but it's quite warm, I should imagine. And Glendora says, "Are you predicting CrackCon will be mostly moist?" I think it'll actually be worse than that, Glendora. I think it'll be pissing down. That's
like last year. Yes, it will.
Every year it rains. It's Derby. It's north of England. It's always raining.
Hey, careful now.
Well, apart from you at the moment, you've got the nicest weather of the lot, I think, looking out. I can see the sun outside your window.
It's really not too bad here.
Smug, he says. Right then. Yes, thank you for everybody joining us tonight. Really appreciate it, as always. Tonight we're going to talk about rule sets and whether or not how details they need to be, how wide a period that they need to cover, whether it's possible to, kind of be a rule set that works for everybody's desires within the gaming hobby. So there were lots of really good comments on the Facebook post, so I'll talk through some of those as we go. But if you've got any comments, then please put them in the chat as always. I know you guys always do, and we'll come to them later. But first of all, let's find out what these two reprobates have been up to this past week. Martin, anything?
Right. I've done shitloads, but I can't show you any of it because I haven't had time to take photos. So what I can do is show. Hang on, I'm going to make.
Derby is in the north, you guys. It's north of here. It's north of the Weltford Gap, so it's north.
Anything above Watford's north for you guys,
it
though, isn't
bloody well is. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well.
And Lancet says he's from Tucson and there's only laughs at you're hot. Fair, you win. You win.
Yeah.
You win.
Right. So I have painted up all of these, which and of course, well, apart from these dark ones here are Robin's contribution. That's a camouflage against that. So I've got to base all of these tonight. I've got another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bases in front of me at the minute. Then I've got this delivery from him today with painted figures to base up as well. And then on top of that, I've been... Oh, man, I'm probably not going to want to tip this. This is going to go really badly, isn't it? So I've filled this. I don't know if this is going to work. I've been making trees. Trees and houses and all sorts. I even roped in my 4-year-old to help. So I will take some photos for next week. But in the meantime, I think I've done... If I take out Robin's contribution, I've done about 12, 13 units, a whole load of trees and the village. And yeah, I want to paint something big again.
Nice. So you got a game this week, did you say?
Yes. All being well, it should be this week. And then, yeah, that'll be fun. And then I just want to paint something where I can actually see its eyeball. Or sensible. No, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to paint something ridiculously oversized.
Oh, geez.
I'm going to do those conquest miniatures. Although I did see one for you today, because I was on their website perusing some of their other ranges, and I'm still going to try and work on you to get the Greek lot. And they've got a Titan that's essentially just a massive hoplite, like the Colossus of Rhodes, but a little bit meaner looking. And it's 160 mil tall.
What the hell?
I mean, it costs about £200, but it is like
that's big. That's big.
It's big, yeah. It's like having a small child.
David Mackay would say you can paint eyeballs on epic figures. So just behave.
But when you're painting up like 5,000 of the things, they're all blind as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair enough. They don't want to see where they're going or where they've come from.
No.
David, you're going to get a yellow card straight away for that. I might as well be in France. I mean, that is just no. That's me.
That's poor form. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, that's early. early
David, I don't know if you were here when Dom got. Actually, it was before I even came on the stream where Dom was lambasting my command base because I had a French guy bayoneting a British soldier, and they were talking about me, and because I've done it for the Becker's Challenge, and I think you said, if I remember correctly, you really like the base, but you can't get over the fact that it's a British soldier dying, therefore you don't want to talk about it, or something.
Exactly,
like that.
Something.
I believe if you go back, it's like the 3rd or 4th episode.
I love the fact you can still remember. That's great.
I remember because I was sitting in my garden in lockdown drinking gin with Haley. Going, oh, they're going to talk about mine. I was like, they're talking about mine. They're talking about mine. And he just like, Leon was on. It was you, Ken, and Leon.
Oh yeah,
and they were like,
that was very early on.
Did you see that Martin's one? Yeah. But he had a British soldier getting bayoneted, so I don't want to talk about it. Like, oh, okay.
You're not one to hold a grudge, are you, Martin?
Not in the slightest, is he?
No. I should play dwarves really, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, bad trauma for Martin. Yeah. Well, you know. Anyway, what about you, Steve? Have you actually done something? I know you have actually.
Yeah, mixed bag. I've actually been. It's not as much because, as I'm prone to do, I've been reeled in by another video game that I'm quite addicted to at the moment.
What is it? Lawnmower
dusting simulator?
No. 30 seconds. It's called Dredge, and it's like a fishing boat game, but with Lovecraftian undertones. There's something a bit Innsmouth about it, but you catch fish and you do quests, and it's really a very creepy game, very, very creepy. But
so essentially, it's cultist simulator.
Yes, sort of. But no, I have been painting something. Last week I mentioned that because of NAM 68 coming out relatively soon, hopefully.
Yeah,
I've been going back to my Rubicon USMC, and I finished my first squad or section. So I had to paint 5 last week. So these are the 5 that I painted.
Oh, yes.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Again, just lovely figures to paint, and just such wonderful poses. And I actually spent quite a bit of time on them. The highlights take a while to do. But I painted them over the course of a couple of nights. And then here is the completed squad, all 10. And I am rather chuffed with them. Rather chuffed.
That's very cool.
I still love the Action Man feel to them. I think that's just brilliant for that.
There's painting it because of the scale. They're probably the most scale wise and in proportion. They're probably the most in like human like figures I've painted. There's nothing heroic scale about them. They're all in proportion. They haven't got big heads or squat legs. They're just really nice to paint. Thank you. And I'm going to work on the next 10. Thanks. But yeah, they were just a joy to paint. Just so nice. Really, really enjoyed them. And yeah, they're not as terrifying as people say they are to put together. In fact, they go together really well.
Do they come in 6 million pieces as well?
Head, body, 2 arm. There's quite a bit on there. They're not as bad as some kits.
Why do you need that?
What?
Why do you need that?
But how many pieces did the War Games Atlantic Nights come in?
1, 2, 3.
4, actually.
No, so some are 2 parts.
Some are 2 and some are.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of which, I painted some that I painted.
You set him up.
They are very, very cool. I do love your World War II deep.
Yes, the decals.
That's awesome.
Amazing. That is amazing.
I just realised I had nothing on. I'm certainly not going to try and freehand them like I'd done it with my feet. So I went through all my World War II bolt action decals and tried to find the ones that would look just the shapes basically. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there they are from the rear. I just it's just a lovely kit to paint. And there's the other 3. So they got.
I love that guy in the middle.
He looks proper angry. Like you wouldn't mess around with him. No. No separate feet on these chaps. But yeah, the guy in the far left with the red, white, and blue things on his shield. Congratulations! I think it was might have been Bartos from the Facebook group. He identified which World War II unit they came from, so you can't hide it from some people. I think it was Czechoslovak.
Czech brigade,
it was a Czech brigade,
yeah. There are a couple of groups that you could go and post that in, right? And certain people would have an aneurysm. First of all, they would sit there trying to work it out what it was, and they get really, really upset that they couldn't figure it out. And then they'd twig, and then there would just be this beautiful outpouring of.
How dare you use your World War II decals for something else? Sod it. They work. They're all just,
why not? Why not?
So I've got 5 more ready to go. This actually over the past day or so, I've been working on some more AB miniatures. I've got me some 20mm Germans to paint, and I've forgotten just how nice these miniatures are to paint. And they're metal. They're metal.
Hang on. And can you replay this? So nice, how nice they are to paint, and they're what
they're metal. They're metal, and they're one piece as well.
When you say they're metal, do you mean they're metal, or are they?
No, they're made of metal.
Oh,
they're.
Can the real Steve please come out again? Please stand up.
Yeah, I've got a squad of these ones, sort of advancing, and I got an officer set as well.
Considering Steve has put German greatcoats on Americans in World War II, this seems a minor crime. Yes.
I think the best part of that, the best comment on that ever was, these are historically inaccurate. And I was like, well, no shit, Sherlock. The German bodies are... Would you... so annoying. But that's what... So the rest of the week is going to be World War II AB. And some more of these foot knights because they're lovely. They're really.
Are you gonna get some of those Gringo 40s?
Yes.
Vietnam and some Empress ones and do a bit of
do a bit of a comparison. But yeah, I need to build some more of my certainly bound from Americans.
I'm running out of places to put things to dry. That'll do. Right, hang on.
But I need to build some more of those Rubicon Americans this week. But it just feels good to be back in the swing of things.
Awesome. I'm a bit concerned. There's at least 2 of our audience.
Yes, I've just seen that.
Rich Dredge, great and slightly addictive.
It's very addictive. I think I'm up to you have a short time each day to do something, like because when night rolls in, you can't be out at night because the gribblies get you.
As well.
Yeah,
loves the art style.
Back in Derby, the Grizzlies.
Quite a cartoony vibe to it, but yeah, great game. Picked it up on sale last Sunday. I've been playing quite a lot of it, but yeah, doesn't half sap your hobby time though.
You might want to give David a yellow card as well here. Metal miniatures are always metal. Plastics are the Smiths.
What?
I quite like that, David. Well done.
You are redeemed in Dom's eyes.
I'll put you on report for that. I'll rescind the yellow and just keep a look at it. Awesome, lovely to see. Well, I concur with you on the old Knights thing because I worked my way through them as well, having done them last week, and I loved them. They were great fun to do.
Yeah, they're lovely.
I've done a couple of units basically. That's one group of them.
They were. Where are they? Not that I don't want you to think that I don't think you could freehand like that. I'm going to assume that those are decals.
I couldn't possibly.
I didn't want to just throw that. So where are they from?
They are actually from. You remember the chap? Carthage will be destroyed.
Yeah. Oh, but those his, are they?
They're his. They're the transfers that he does as Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So
are they nice?
Do you know what? They are the easiest transfers I think I've ever had. They go on like a dream, absolutely easily, and he's done them so well that the background comes through beautifully. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend I don't know whether he sells them separately or whether you can only buy them when he does a Kickstarter.
I think they're available on. I think I might be wrong, but I think he does sell through Etsy or. Someone else does. I might be wrong there, but
I will definitely be having a look for those because they look really nice.
They're superb, really, really good. The only issue I have with them is that you have to pick and choose which ones you go for, depending on what you're going to use them for, because there's quite a lot of very fantasy stuff in there, and also if you're being properly accurate, as someone pointed out, I wasn't with one of my early ones, the faces are pointing the wrong way on some of the animals, so I think they should always go to the left, but a lot of his are on the right. Is that right? Or the other way around? I forget which way.
Can I just say my animals always hang to the left?
He's a bit of an animal. Weaver says they are on Etsy. So there you go.
Ah, cool.
Look out for Carthage Will Be Destroyed. He does. He's done about 4 Kickstarters now of different transfers, and they are really nice. I bought some from every one, or the more sort of historic-y ones, and I keep them for just that kind of policy, that kind of project. Really worked well. And because I felt I was letting the team down last week by showing absolutely diddly squat, I thought I'd better get on with something else. So I also cracked on and finished.
Painted an army. Painted
nearly.
Full hand-schnecked army.
How about a load of Gallic light cavalry?
Oh, nice.
Hey, where are they from?
I love the trousers on the chap in the front.
Yeah, I love that. I like the stripy arm, dude.
Yeah, they are a mixture. Thank you. They're a mixture of, I think they're Crusade. No, they're either First Corps or Crusader. I forget now. And I bought a whole load of different cavalry because when I laid out all my Gallic force, I realised that I didn't have enough cavalry, particularly light cavalry. So I bought some. So I just painted them. And actually, the stripes and everything. Funny enough, talking about the paint pens, I used those. Posca pens to do them.
They're very cool. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, carry on.
I was going to say that guy with the stripy arms at the front. I'm getting serious Lord Flashheart vibes.
That's exactly what I thought. Yeah, exactly.
I really am. All right.
Yeah, it's like, he's a brilliant model. I love it.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, so I've got, because we need a lot of cavalry for CrackCon.
I've got another 24 to paint, I think.
Okay, you're on cavalry. That's fine. I'll just paint dudes. I can do that. I just paint dudes. I've got some slingers on the go, some archers on the go, and then I've got more Romans to do. So there should be a fair bit, I think, on the table. I can't do any more of those warlord ones. I'll have to get some Victrix ones or something like that.
Animals to the left. That's what I thought it was, Glenda. Thank you. And also, because I had a couple of extra cavalry officery types left over, I did a couple of cavalry commands for the Gallic force.
Nice.
Oh, that is awesome. I love the one on the right. That's very cool.
They come out all right, haven't they? Quite like them. Yeah.
Your basin is awesome. I really like the basin. That's really nice. Considering you used to absolutely despise basing.
You know, it's your fault. Again, it's another one of you causing me all kinds of grief that I suddenly start spending more time on the basin than I ever used to. So, but they do come out working all right in the end. So, I guess I should be grateful.
See, Steve, we've had a positive effect.
Yes.
Well, eventually it had to happen, right?
I keep saying my mate when he gets to basing, it's like it's like something horrific's going to happen to him. And eventually, what he does, he ropes his wife in, and they have like a conveyor belt he glues, and she sticks stuff on. And then he has to go
with that one. And
then he goes and lies down for a couple of days to recover because he can't stand it. He just can't stand basing.
I actually really enjoy it because for me that's the end of that unit. So that's done. I'm finished, and I can move on to the next one.
I mean, I'm not enjoying it at the minute, but I normally do. But I've never let it build up like this before. And in my brain, this was a good idea. I've got my done tray, which has 3 bases in it, and my to-do tray that has about 30 bases in it.
That is scary. That is proper scary. Yeah. All right. Well, so that's that. That's okay. Dave says flock and goblin green bases or nothing.
Oh yes, flock like it's 1993 again.
I think he's gone to the Ken school of basing, hasn't he? Blimey. Talking about Ken, he's been talking about figures again and talking about painting them, so we may actually see him back at some point. You never know.
Can I just
Possibly.
say, given what Ken has used to paint tanks, I don't even want to know what he uses for basing miniatures.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. Right then, that's enough of that shenanigans. Let's get on with the topic for tonight, shall we? Reminder of everybody watching, please like, subscribe, and do all the YouTubey thing that Steve always loves us to do. Hit that like button if you're enjoying it. Hit the like button if you're not. We don't care. And don't forget to comment, because we love the interaction and all that shenanigans. So tonight I thought we'd talk about rule sets again. And we talked about rule sets a few times, mainly because we're wargamers and we're obsessed with collecting more than we're ever going to use. But I think I was interested because I can't remember how this came about, but I was talking to somebody about different rules and kind of what they like in a rule set. And they sort of talked about having a rule set for one specific kind of game, and then for the same period, and then for for the same period, having another set of rules to be able to play in another environment. And I was thinking about it last week at the club because we played a GDA 2 Napoleonic game, and I kept thinking, I like these rule sets, but they're it's really hard to get a game in. So I'm thinking, well, actually for a club night, I probably need to play Black Powder because I can get a game finished. So it got me thinking about whether or not, people just stick to the same rules all the time, or whether they swap and change them on a regular basis. So it got me thinking, do people feel that, well, let me put it another way. Could there ever be one rule set that you would use for every kind of game you played? Would there be something that you just think, the basis of this rules is perfect and I can use them pretty much on every, one-page rules kind of scenario where it just is, everything works for what I want it to be? What do you reckon, Steve?
I think, so when I thought about this, I was like, well, no. But then I had a bit of a moment. How about the mechanics are the same?
Mm-hmm.
But for every period, there's like a one-page add-on which gives it that historical sort of the flavor for what period you're trying to play. Because it got me thinking. Do you know when Little Wars TV do their rules reviews? One of their percentages they score on is historical flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just thought, well, if you just got one set of rules, how are you going to get multiple sets of historical flavor into that rule set? But if you had a sort of an addition, so for example, you'd get your core rules. You think, right, what do I want to play today? I fancy playing some Korean War. As you get your one-page thing, and it's your Korean War. It's quite basic, maybe quite a basic one. I mean, there's not going to be any, 4 foot by 6 foot charts in there. But I think that's for me. If I had to do it, it would be that way. So you'd have your core rules, sort of maybe 2 sides, 3 sides, 4 sides. Keep everything quite not generic, but it will be difficult. I imagine it would be quite a feat to do. But then you look at like one-page rules, though.
Well, exactly. That's what I think about, because that's the theory with them, isn't it? Pretty much that they are the same mechanics and the same thing. Pretty much. Well, I don't know the rules that well myself, but what I understand is that you literally could just play any period you like with them. And there's a certain attraction. I mean, particularly for those of us who are getting grey hairs and losing brain cells, trying to remember the different rules when you jump between things. At least if the mechanics are consistent and you only have to remember the little variations, I think you're onto something there, Steve.
It's a bit like the Rampant games, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm just
Andrew's just exactly the same thing. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll cut Martin out of this one. Sounds like Osprey Blue series of Lion Rampant, Dragon Rampant, Xenos Rampant. Yeah. Exactly. It's exactly the same system.
Yeah. Definitely the Rampant ones, because it's all about the wound mechanics is the same. The hit mechanic. It's just quite a clever way I'm don't watch my words. I can see a vein popping in Martin's head from here.
I'm fine.
Do you need
intervention? I'm just listening. I'm just listening.
But no, but that's essentially what is at the core of the rampant games. Is the mechanics for movement and combat, etc. You know, they vary slightly, between each set, but there is that core mechanic, especially to do with casualty removal. So that's a good call. And the Osprey Blue Books, definitely.
And similarly, I guess in some ways, the sort of Hail Caesar Black Powder kind of mechanism is very similar. There's very much a constant theme that runs through, don't you think, Martin?
I mean, the very back, I mean, they had to divide it. They had to cut like the late medieval period, didn't they? So Hail Caesar's got a very different melee resolution system to the other ones, with the exception that because you have clash and sustained values, and the whole thing is worked out differently, and you can't be disordered just on a 6 and all that kind of stuff, which throws people a bit. Where Pike and Shot is just essentially a reskin of Black Powder, whereas Hail Caesar more thought went into it. I agree. I mean, the way that Hail Caesar and Black Powder are presented is more of a sandbox anyway for you to do the heavy lifting. Because I'm having this trouble. I say I'm having this trouble. I've been a little bit more active on the Epic Warlord Facebook group recently, and there's lots of people who want to get into the Punic Wars, and there's a lot of questions like, oh, in the list, does it do this? And if you're list building and so that, and I'm sitting there and, you know, the vein in my head's going, no, we don't need to, you know, what list are these in? It's like, what you got to do is if you want to change anything, you can just do what you want, really. Just give them this rule, give them that rule, make them wavering. I don't know, you know, all of this. But I think people obviously like to have it, sort of change. So yeah, Hail Caesar and is the way the morale system works now in Hail Caesar, and the way the commanders and everything work. The core command system is the same. But the melee resolution, the break test system, all of that is totally different to the other ones. I mean, I suppose that's as close, but as I say, then they rely on expansions to do. You know, that's when they add in all of their, you know, you should do this for it, like in Glory Hallelujah. There's all, you know, there's the, you know, you can't. It is Glory Hallelujah, isn't it? Where you can't do 3 moves and shoot.
Yeah, I think it is.
Like, you know, something like that. Anyway, there's little bits.
It's Glory Hallelujah. I'm sure it is. Yeah.
People pick and choose on each of the ones that they want to do. I take things from Clash of Eagles that I like. I use things from Albion Triumphant that I like. But is this just not? I saw someone commenting. Is this just like GURPS for wargaming? GURPS, you like? Is it generic? Universal role-playing system, is that it?
Yeah,
where you had GURPS and Savage Worlds was another one. Although I love Savage Worlds. You know, it's you present the system and then rely on expansions to give you the flavor. So you know, you've got your Fate did it, Fate Core do it as well. In role-playing, you have your, essentially you write the system by which tests or combat, for example, or command are resolved, and then rely on expansions, like role-playing system. I must also say, I hugely dislike GURPS. I've played it, and I didn't enjoy it. But only because I found that a little bit like we're talking about here is that the games master or whoever is running it added so much of their own stuff in, which I guess is the point. They just provide you with a resolution system. Yeah. Which I guess is is that what we're saying, or are you asking for more detail?
Like, no, well, that's my question really, is whether or not, you know, people are kind of, I guess it depends on the sort of gamer you are. So are you quite happy to play a game where a lot of the nuance of the period is almost left out to a degree, just to allow you to play a game and be, you know, pick up your figures and roll some dice and have a nice time? Or is the whole kind of aesthetics, does the aesthetics, if you like, take over and make it fun, whatever. But actually, or you sort of person that just goes, you know what, that just would grind my teeth if they didn't do exactly what they should do.
I've always liked to ask the question. I don't do Napoleonic gaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're playing a game using Napoleonic figures, does it feel like you're gaming the Napoleonic period?
Well, not if I'm playing Warhammer with them, no.
But if you're playing something like, I say, General D'Armée or Black Powder or what have you, do you feel like you're playing in the Napoleonic period? You're playing an actual Napoleonic engagement, or is it just
you're going to set it off? You're going to kick it off.
You're going to kick it off now. But yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think there again, it depends what you're after, right? So for you, the aesthetics of the beautiful figures in fancy uniforms with lovely drummers marching up and down the table is what does you, and you're happy to see that, then maybe you're more on the, Napoleon side of the fence and actually quite happy to do it that way. Whereas some other people, it'd be, no, I want to see what I perceive to be an accurate reflection of what the Napoleonic battles were. And depending on that, you choose your rule set, right?
Did I dream or make this up? Or are there some rules that weather dictates whether your powder is wet or dry?
There are.
Yeah,
I
can imagine you could go quite down to a granular level with Napoleonic gaming. But at what point does it become boring? At what point does that the granular nature of drilling down that far into trying to capture the aesthetic of that chosen period? Yeah, you lose all sense of fun.
Yeah. Well, that's the eternal question, right? So if you go back to, rule sets that existed 20, 30 years ago, they were that granular. As I mentioned before on the stream, I can remember Second World rule sets that would actually have a sort of a drop. You'd have to measure the range from your tank to the enemy tank, and depending on the distance, the penetration values would drop off. And you comparing your penetration rates with the armored deflection, and it was like you needed a bloody PhD in maths to play them. Now they were pretty accurate, I would imagine, but were they fun to play? Yeah, they were hard work to play. On occasion, you had good games.
Going back to Black Powder, and Rick Priestley, which was obviously a derivative of War Master. To start with, is that not what they say in the front? Isn't it that they tried to design a game that you could finish in an evening, have a big battle, finish in an evening, pack it away, and give some semblance of period feel, depending on what you want to do, without but not get bogged down in the nitty gritty? Isn't there? I'm sure there's like a statement at the start that was the project brief. If you were in The Apprentice, actually maybe not The Apprentice, if you're just like the war game equivalent of The Apprentice, and they handed you war game in an evening, historical, come up with a system that you can play lots of different periods with, just as a general system, and that's what they tried to do, right? Yeah, isn't that what he set out to do, and by and large succeeded, right? Play in an evening gives you some semblance of historical feel. Some people hate it, but I don't think I don't think he's trying to please those people. He just wanted to do, like, say for you could break it out like you were just saying, have a club game. Whereas if you had an all-dayer, you'd play General D'Armée out. Yeah, because for me that reflects better my perception of a Napoleonic battle. But to play a game in a couple of hours, Black Powder plays really well, and it's fun. So does it also come down to accessibility? Because I think if you had someone coming over from a different system, it's going to be far easier to teach them Black Powder and have them come back and teach them GDA. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying that GDA is bad, but it's more user friendly. And I'm not saying it's simplistic or makes it, less intuitive or refined. I'm just saying that it is the user teaching game to someone as well. So
I agree.
That's got to come into it, right?
Yeah. I do. In fact, I think John's pick. I think Firefly was one of those rule sets I'm referring to. Yeah, and actually somebody else picked up another one. I remember Challenger. Yeah, that was it.
That,
Yeah, that
do
was
you know
another
what?
one.
I was
Jeez,
just
they
about
were
to ask,
complicated.
when that game Challenger, when was that out?
As I recall, it's a paper little whatever very small booklet thing. I think it was in the 80s or 90s. It's quite a long time ago. It's the one I remember.
I've said it before when I was first at my gaming club in about 91. There was these older gamers there, and they always used to play on like a big, massive, huge table. But it would have been Cold War sort of modern, micro armor, and none of them ever looked to be enjoying themselves. They always had like really pensive looks on their faces. They were always consulting massive charts, and there was always lots of beard stroking. There was always lots of that. A
lot of stern looking, and and they spent an awful lot of time talking through the exact composition of their brigades or their formations that were a particular week in a particular period, because it was so accurate. Absolutely.
But nothing ever seemed to happen. To be stood there for the club was open for about 4 hours, and apart from the beard stroking, nothing really happened.
Nothing
for
happened
all those 4 hours. I was like, we're on the next table playing Space Hulk and throwing dice everywhere and having a great time. And then,
that's true. I think that's true. I'm surprised. There's lots of good comments. Thank you. Keep them coming. I'm starring as many as I can. We'll get round to them in a bit. So in the comments on the Facebook page, I'm surprised you didn't say this, because Andy said Sword Weirdos does it all. There you go.
The Weirdos set, so Sword Weirdos and Space Weirdos, they I can't speak for Sword Weirdos because I've not played it, but Space Weirdos, those rules give you a spine, and you could adapt that to any game. I know that John, he's adapted it for use with Zona Alpha.
Yep.
I think there's I can't remember the name of the YouTube channel. They've combined it with Inquisimunder.
Yeah.
And they're using the movement, the combat, the action. So the base spine rules, and you can attach that to a lot of things. You could even use it for modern smart. Because I was thinking about using to do like a 1930s gangster, like a small game shootout between 30s. You could do it. It just take a little bit of jigging around with the weapons.
Yeah,
the spine is there to do it. Anything with the Weirdos games.
I think I was corrected. Somebody corrected me. It isn't the 1-page rule; it's the 1 hour rules, isn't it? That's what it is. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. But those, Challenger and Firefly, and also Harpoon. That was another one. Yeah, Harpoon. Mentioned that. Harpoon was a modern naval thing, and that was exactly the same. Completely unplayable. I mean, just for my. Anyway, whatever. So, okay,
Martin, does that not interest you? A modern naval combat game?
Naval combat. God, Jesus.
No, I can't even pretend. Not really. I'll be honest.
Yorkshire Ken was sitting on the fence on the Facebook and said, "I hate generic rule sets. They remove all period feel to a game and don't reward period tactics. And don't get me started on that 40 quid for the basic set." And he goes on to talk about all the extra supplements and what have you we've talked about already.
I wonder who we could be. Hello, Saga.
Yeah. So what about then, take a different tack. If you're into your historic gaming, is there a sort of a time period limit that they could cover? So you look at Hail Caesar. That covers everything from biblical times through to medieval times, which is quite a different, quite a marked difference in the kind of techniques. But basically, they're using pointy sticks to hit each other. Second World rule sets tend to cover the entire Second World War. Is that desirable to do it that way? Can you have a good game, or should you say, right, the tactics and the command structures and the weapon system is so different from 1939 to 1945 that you could only play, it should be, your rule set should be so focused on that? Or can you deal with it with adaptions and changes? Same with ancient sets.
I know that's one of the things that grinds Alex's gear is World War One games that don't evolve. That because I know he always says, it changed rapidly, the style of warfare in World War One. From what they did in 1914 was radically different to what they did in 1918.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he was saying, if a rule set, a World War One rule set, which should really reflect that change in tactics and approach. But you are right, at World War Two games, it's bolt action. Whether you're playing in 39 or 45, the core mechanics are the same. You get different rules for different nations depending on what period of the war you're fighting. So, for example, if you're using an early war French list, you have the communications breakdown, which means I think the rule is if when you draw the first dice of the game, if the French one, it goes back in the bag.
Yeah.
So there's little small rules like that, but the core combat mechanics, the organization, exactly the same, whether it's 39 or 45.
Yeah, and that kind of works pretty well, I think. I mean, you either love bolt action. Well, it's the same with Chain of Command, isn't it? Which everybody loves. Covers the same rule set basically. Same with O Group, the same rule set, but there's nuances around in O Group. There's nuances around the structure of the different brigades to reflect the battalions to reflect the different time periods you're fighting, and obviously the equipment you can use changes. But exactly, what about you, Martin? Is there any because I know you love your Hell Caesar and you love your Black Powder, and there's obviously the various supplements you can buy to go along with those, which Ken grinds his gears at the fact that each of them costs you 30 quid a time or whatever, or you can develop your own. But is it desirable for that kind of system, do you think, that allows you to take a basic rule set, covers an ancient period, a Napoleonic period, that you can then just slightly adapt?
You say, well, the thing is, I like tinkering with stuff anyway. Yeah, and I didn't like the adaptation that I say the adaptation. The Perrys wrote a list for the Wars of the Roses so they could play a campaign. That was the original thing. And when Warlord released Hail Caesar 2, what they did was put that list in there. They haven't done it. They didn't. When they kind of said, "Oh, we've done it to cover the late medieval," they just essentially did everything we were doing anyway, with the cannons and that, and we went further. So I like tinkering with things and adding them in. I suppose the thing I like. The way that it works in those three games, I guess the reason I like it is because everything you need anyway is in the core books.
Yeah.
If you buy the expansions because you want that, but everything in there, I mean, take Hail Caesar, for example. There's a massive section on troop types, heavy infantry, heavy infantry, light infantry, medium infantry, light cavalry, heavy cavalry, elephants, chariots, formation. You can easily make your own list because, again, remember, it's not meant to be like a list building game, so you can easily do it. Which is why I have more of a problem with Saga, because there are no statistics in the core rulebook at all. You have to buy the universe book for that. So if they, but which was different obviously from the first release, because the first release was just Vikings and the Viking Age, and they gave you that. All the stats, whereas in this one you got the rule book, which has this is what the stats are, and then you have to buy the Age of Vikings, Age of Alexander, and all the stats are in that. There's no sort of building blocks, but it depends if you want to buy a game that you're happy to adapt. We all adapt our games a little bit because everyone comes up with house rules. I don't really, but most people I play with will always have something that they change a little bit in most games. I don't. I would break games anyway, so I don't know. The thing is, I find it funny when people write, for example, a medieval rule set, and they say that yes, this represents medieval warfare, because it usually doesn't. No more represents it than what I've done in Hail Caesar. It is crap. The moment you start going, "Oh, there's a unit," well, that's wrong. Doesn't work like that. It's a company. You got companies, you got battles. And then you got a big smack. The moment you go, "Oh, my archers are going to peel off," I didn't do that. They're not like clearing rooms, with their bows. So you have to accept stuff, because as wargamers, we like to have things. We like to divide things up a little bit, don't we? And have that under control. Because otherwise, you're just painting one big mass, and you just go, right, let's throw it at the enemy. So we like to have that as wargamers in our head. I suppose when it comes to things like the Napoleonic period, it's a little bit easier because you have things organized into at the base level battalions and platoons. World War II, it becomes easier to break it down because you get down to that, you know, because army structure was different. It was more organized.
Yep.
So I would, you know, I would argue that it's a war game that's written specifically to represent World War II will better represent World War II than a war game written specifically to represent medieval warfare, because medieval warfare is essentially a scrum.
Yep.
And it would be pretty dull. I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I like tinkering. I don't care really. I just like a system. I like being presented. Here you go. Here's a basic system, and then, you know, walk away and just do. You know, you can do what you want to it. You know, it's without breaking it. Sometimes if you do things to games, like I tried doing some bits to Muskets and Tomahawks, and then found that it buggered it up in another way. But Muskets and Tomahawks is a good example. I think Muskets and Tomahawks does a better job of representing the French-Indian War than Black Powder does.
I agree.
Much better. Whereas I think Muskets and Tomahawks does a really poor attempt at the Napoleonic period, and I think Black Powder is better for it. So.
Yeah,
there you go.
I completely agree with you on both those. Actually, Andy has a good point. He says, as time gone by, I'm more convinced there's no good or bad rules, just what you like. It's as personal as a taste in music. I think that's why people get so passionate about the rules. Yeah, I think you're right, Andy. I think you're absolutely right. So here's the thing. Where's this was another comment that Dave put up on the Facebook page. He says he prefers specific rule set. You just don't get the feel of the period otherwise. But what about gaming in different scales? Does that just open up another can of worms? You know, so do certain rules, or do you feel that rules work equally well at all scales, or are there better rules that work if you're playing Napoleon? Well, I'll give you an example. For instance, we talked about this bunch. I think we talked about this on one of the streams actually. When we're playing GDA, we tend to play 15mm Napoleonics. When we're playing Black Powder, we tend to play 28mm Napoleonics. I'm not sure why that is, but we do down the club. And it just seems to be the way it works. Does the scale need to reflect the rules, or the rules need to reflect the scale, do you think? Or can you play it either way?
I suppose in some degree, because if you're playing in a small scale miniatures, as in 6mm or 2mm or whatever, you've got to have a command system that reflects that, because you're dealing with miles and miles of battlefield. Whereas if you're playing bolt action, it's basically some bloke yelling at the guy around the corner. So yeah, you know, Paul, no.
Every week. Well done, Paul. Every week. Good stuff. Yeah.
I feel victimized. No, I don't. I haven't even used that thing in the game yet, and I hope it blows itself up.
Andy, good point. All scales are equally good. It's just that 28mm is more equal than all others.
Well, when we had our chat the other week about it, I was very surprised. I was honestly really surprised that when it came to Napoleonic, that the consensus, I say, well, it wasn't really a consensus, let's just say the majority of people said that 28 was the preferred. I really thought that was going to be like 10, or 6. I really did, or even 15. But no, 28 was the one that won out in that. I was because simply it didn't just come down to the game; it came down to the look of the thing and the visuals, and people wanted to do that and represent that.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. We're almost an hour deep, so let's take a breather. We'll come back with some of the questions. Also,
I haven't even done half of these bases. How can we be an hour in?
You're slacking. You're slacking, mate. Let's do some of the news, shall we? Because there was actually quite a bit.
I found some while you were.
You said you hadn't got any, and I've just gone on there. You've got masses of it now.
You were talking about like the rampant games, so I just thought I'd do something useful.
The rampant games is fast becoming your recipe QR. I love it. All right, let's do some news, and then we'll come back with some comments and a bit more discussion on rules. Do you want to take it?
Yeah.
I'll go with your paintbrush.
No, it's fine. It's just basing pastes and stupid Romans. Let's
Stupid
have
Romans, dead right.
look. I saw a few things in the last 10 minutes. Going on to the RPGs, because I'm a big fan of them and I like putting them on here. There is a new Cthulhu-esque one, which is an Arkham horror one. This is the starter set. This is the Hungering Abyss starter set for the Arkham horror role-playing game. If you fancy a bit of Cthulhu, and basically Cthulhu mixed with Cluedo. It is right away, but I can't remember the name of the company now that's producing that. But there's most companies now seem to be doing these fairly reasonable starter sets. I wish some war games did this a little bit more, because that starter set there is about 30 quid, and you could buy that with your mates and then try it out. And if it sucked, you've only you haven't lost that much in it. So I think that's pretty good. I'm just trying to find out who did it. Here we go. That's it. Edge, the company Edge, have put that out because I think they switched licenses. But that's going to be available in August. So you take the role of talented and bold investigators who are looking to solve a mystery in an empty graveyard and strange happenings that are going on throughout the streets of Arkham. Just replace Arkham with Derby. Go on. So this starter set, which I think is really good value, comes with a complete Games Masters reference board, a complete adventure book, 5 character portfolios, 24 dice, 3 double-sided poster maps, 16 profile cards, 21 item and spell cards, 3 punch boards. There's several handouts that you can do to make your game. So you could get that and have a good laugh with your mates over a few sessions. Next up, this is going to get some people going. I'm not one of them, but the old world dwarves, I believe, are now finally on the way. I think this has caused quite a few ructions in the community, which because they announced them, I think, a couple of months ago, and then there was no news at all. And I think they're on their way up to pre-order next week or the week after. So those of you who have been waiting for the dwarves to come out for the old world, they are essentially here. Bill Hooks have released a little bit of a expansion of a book to their rules, which is their Fantasia setting, or essentially Nevermind Warlocks. So $5.99, you basically get the fantasy add-on. Now, this to me, I mean, Bill Hooks, I think, could be quite interesting to use for a fantasy game.
I think so. I think it works better myself, controversially.
So that could be interesting for some people. It's only $5.99 at the War Games Illustrated site. I know, again, I've seen people talking about this. The second edition of This Is Not a Test is up for pre-order, I believe. So if you like your post-apocalyptic gribbly goodness, that is now here. I think was it Paul who was mentioning this? I don't want to say it was and then it wasn't, but I believe it was Paul. And finally, the 10mm mass battle game is set in a dystopian wars universe. Is also on the way, which is the Battle for Singapore. Armor Clash is on land, so you've got 1920s steam-powered mechs and things in a steampunk universe battling out over Singapore. So that's on its way. I really tried, and I couldn't actually find a picture of the miniatures, which annoys me, and immediately annoys me because I want to see it, and because they showed a picture of the box, and I'm kind of like, please show the miniatures. But it's coming up for pre-order soon. So if people are looking for something a bit different, that might be it. Anyway, there you go. That was something I had. There were some things that I found.
Nice. Excellent. Some good stuff there. In terms of what I found, there was actually, up until about yesterday, I didn't see anything. And then suddenly I found a whole load of stuff. So War Bases have continued with some really nice add-ons to their range, so little bits and bobs, some carts, which are always useful scenery pieces. I think one's a mule cart and one's some other cart, I forget now, but they look really nice, and nice additions to the table in terms of
always good for
whatever period as well, pretty much. So that's nice. Ian over at Flags of War has continued with producing
nice
Austrian Succession figures. So these are, I think they're soon out. So these are Arquebusiers du Grassin Command. There's those, and then I've got two of the same picture. Oh well, never mind. And some skirmishing ones, and some more skirmishing ones. Very much a passion project for Ian, as we know. He loves those, and they are beautiful, beautiful figures. But Jesus, a lot of lace and frills on them. Not going to be painting them myself, but very pretty figures. Company which I don't think gets enough love. Because their range is very eclectic, but
antediluvian,
yeah. Them. So these are sea monster hunters. I saw you weirdos out there would love to use them for something. They're just brilliant models. Really,
I like the way it's Jaws, isn't it?
It's exactly that, isn't it? Exactly that. Really nice figures. I'm not sure how you'd use them, but fantastic. We talked about some of the new Cromarty Forge figures available from Plastic Soldier Company, and they dropped another load of late Roman figures. So look at this. These are 10 mil.
I saw those, and I was looking at some like versions of those Funko Pop things. There's something weird about them. I can't tell what it is. They're amazing sculpts, but I think the heads freak me out. Big. The heads freak me out a little bit. It's like they are nice. I don't mean that horribly. I don't know if it's just the way the render. It's just like
love it. And these some more of their Roman figures.
They're 10 mil.
10 mil. Yeah, mate.
Yeah.
10.
Holy moly.
And you can select like the design you want on the shield.
You can have different designs, different helmets on some of them. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Some of the cavalry. The infantry are massed up like that. Very much like the epic kind of model that. Very nice indeed. There you go, some more of them. So yeah, they're just amazing. And I did pick up some of their figures a while back, and they are really, really nice.
What, Romans?
No, not Romans, obviously.
I have to say, what happened?
Carthaginians. Yeah. Also, on the little fellas, there's some more resin from Plastic Soldier Company. These are late war German Panzer Grenadiers.
They're lovely.
I mean,
I do like those. They're resin.
Yeah,
they're prints.
I think they're prints. Yeah, look at them. So, really, really smart. Awesome little figures. So, really, really nice sets coming out. There's so many good little figures coming out. Smaller scales, particularly at the moment. Really, really good. Also, a very old manufacturer that doesn't seem to get as much attention as it probably should do. Museum Miniatures have showing off some of their new Samnite figures. 15 mil. Funny that. Wonder why that would be, because these are probably true 15 mil, so they'll fit in quite well with the epic figures. That's all I'm saying. Lovely sculpts. Really nice. And what I do like is all these renders being shown on various websites is that, or Facebook pages, that in the case of these figures, he was actually asking his community for input on whether there was anything they particularly wanted changed or whether they thought they reflected the figures nicely, which I think is really, really good.
Do you remember when Rubicon did that?
Yes.
Do you remember Steve? You remember that, don't you? Wasn't that last year when Rubicon went, "Oh, what do you think of this?" And then they had to shut it because of the twat sort of factor.
What range was it?
It was World War II, wasn't it? It was all to do with a particular machine gun or something.
That doesn't surprise me.
I
might have to go around for that. I do like it.
It was to do with how it was all to do with how a gun was being held. It was all to do with how someone was holding a gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. out of proportion heads. They reckon that's what Daniel was saying. I think you're right with those chromatids, but they paint well that way, don't they? That's the thing.
But then they heroic littles,
epic heroic
littles.
I don't know.
know.
Whatever. Anyway, let's get on to some moisture. So actually just about half an hour before we came on, I think these dropped. So this is pack 3,
Yes.
I think it is, from Bloody Miniatures, Mounted Dragoons.
I need him just to do one more, and then my guy that got an absolute kicking off Miller can raise his own regiment with some generic flags from Ian at Flags of War. So they're very nice, aren't they? Obviously they are still using what they called the EBOB.
EBOB, I think it is. Yeah.
Which I think some people have said they would prefer him not to because they don't particularly like them. I do like those though. They are very cool.
Very nice indeed. So I'm not sure when that range will come, but there's probably another pack due, I would imagine. David mentioned, and I couldn't find a picture of it, so apologies. Bacchus 6mm Italian Wars range apparently coming out. Which will keep those who like the 6mm very happy, I'm sure, and those who want the Italian Wars.
Oh, I fancy me some 6mm Landsknechts. That sounds entertaining.
How big is the cod pieces? That's what you want to know.
Exactly. 6mm cod pieces. Historically accurate sizes.
So yeah, lots of good stuff coming through again. And there's no need for that.
That was my phone went mental.
So some really good figures coming through, particularly at those smaller scales. I don't know why it is at the moment particularly, but there are some beautiful figures.
That's good.
So if we missed anything, let us know, and we'll try and pick it up, but I'm sure we do. We don't claim to pick everything up, but just a few of the selection. So let's get on with the rest of the show. Reminder for those who are watching tonight, if you haven't already joined the Facebook page, please do. Links in the description down below. Just have to answer the questions and post up anything you see news-wise there for us to pick up. That would be really helpful. And obviously your ongoing works and projects, and we'll cover some of those off later on in the show. Let's go back to rules. Middle of August for Bloody Miniatures. All right, okay.
Excellent.
Ooh, better get ready for them then. I could do with some more Dragoons for my 28mm. Let's get back to the talk about different rule sets and what have you. So other question I want to ask around different whether rule systems can ever work for skirmish and massed battle systems. Would it ever be possible for a rule set to work for both systems?
What are we classifying as a skirmish?
Oh God!
Are we talking skirmish as in you have a few we're talking like a few models aside, or are we talking like saga, or are we talking so basically I'm saying, are we talking where a skirmish game where you have between 5 and 10 models, or are we talking a skirmish game where you have between 5 and
correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's any way possible that a rule set could work with 5-10 figures aside as a skirmish game that worked with 200 figures aside. I don't think that's feasible.
We've talked about that before. A skirmish, the sort of more in detail you're going, the more factors, I suppose. You have different factors, but the more precise you would have to be.
Yeah,
I guess. If you've got something defining modern warfare, and how troops act in modern warfare is not going to really work for a Napoleonic period, or even for a Second World War. Be easier, be closer, but I've go back to it. I've done obviously Hail Caesar just using 4 or 5 units in our campaign, and it works absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. You just have to accept the fact that you've only got one commander, and if he screws up, you have to, you're not going to get to do very much. But then that's part of the tactical sort of fun of it, really.
Yep.
It's like making and doing the right decisions, not going, oh, something didn't get to move. Well, maybe you should have planned better. And then there's that bit where it goes wrong entirely. Although there are some alternatives you can do. So it's funny, actually, because in that Epic rulebook, they suggest, always saying that the first order succeeds no matter what, to get things moving. But that's kind of like putting up the ramps when you're bowling. I don't do that.
Well, actually, surprisingly, a lot of people have said yes, they can, apart from Paul who said no. But Old School says surprisingly yes, with some mods. Okay, and Alex agrees. Yes, apparently Conquest does that.
Yeah. Well.
There you go.
Yeah. I've got the. Yeah. I mean, I think the resolution system is the same, isn't it? The sort of the rank and flank obviously factor's gone. But no, that's true. That is true. Yeah, they've done that. And
Chosen Men, Glendora says Chosen Men is a good rule set for skirmish that can be upscaled. And Rich quite rightly says, what about Firefight?
Yeah,
for bolt action. Same system, basically, isn't it?
So what sprung to my mind? Again, the rules are exactly the same. The only difference is rather than one dice representing a unit, it's an individual man. And before we talk about upscaling or downscaling, I've played Firefight at 15 mil, and it works surprisingly well.
Yeah,
I thought it'd be a complete, not very good. No, I sold it with one squad aside. It was US Airborne versus late war Germans. And it was a surprisingly good game. Really, really good game.
Victor says Oathmark, successful for both skirmish and mass battle. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, very good point. Good system as well. I enjoyed that. Really clever. And Daniel again comes in with Raven Feast from Little Wars TV. Not played that.
Is that their intro Viking game type thing?
That's the freebie one you can just download, isn't it? Yeah. Not played it myself, but so interesting. I think I would have tended to agree with you, but it seems like maybe we're wrong. Unsurprisingly, because we're wrong on a lot of things. So actually, Aled makes a good point that Mad Steve, Basement 1908, plays some massive ACW figure count games using Sharp Practice. Yeah, if you've got the room and the desire, you can play it, I suppose. I wonder whether it probably works better from the skirmish game upscaling to a larger game rather than the other way around, I would think. Wouldn't you think? I mean, I know Bolt Action does it the other way, but I don't know. Interesting. Yeah. I'm interested by that. I think it just shows, doesn't it, the different systems. What about different styles of gaming? So, again, without getting down the whole heated debate about competition gaming and historical gaming or realistic gaming or points-based gaming versus scenario-based gaming, but could a rule set work, or do rule sets work well in a competition arena and also give you a fairly realistic historical or fantasy, as you imagine it should be, game? What do you reckon, Steve? I mean, Bolt Action is a classic example of one that sort of does it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprisingly a competitive game at the tournament scene. I know loads of people have come up against some pretty horrible wildly historically inaccurate lists in
Japanese bamboo fighters,
multiple platoons with those Dakar Stewarts that have got about 5 MMGs on them. So it can be. I don't know. I mean, like I said, the only tournament game I've ever played with X-Wing, and that was Star Wars. So it always captured the feel of the aesthetic. Anyway, I don't know. It's a tough one. It is a tough one.
It comes down to that whole thing about how much you really want the rules to reflect your image of the period, and so it's accurate. I don't believe any rule set is 100% accurate because we're not knee deep in blood and shit and gore, but and fearing for our lives. But how much does it compare to how much does it compare to how you imagine a game should play, or a real battle should be fought, versus making it competitive and interesting for both players to play, doesn't it? No.
I think it's really what you take from a tournament. I mean, I imagine there's quite a few people out there that go to tournaments and couldn't give a flying fudge whether their opponents have a nice day or not.
Yep.
All they want to do is curb stomp them the entire day. That's their reason for being there.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. It really is. I don't know how you do it.
What about you, Martin? What's the most, if you were to say these rules are pretty historically accurate, could you then see them being played in a more competitive, balanced sort of scenario?
But
would that lose?
But the moment you go to a tournament, it's about who can use the rules best to win, not how you're representing history the best.
True.
It's how you're saying who's the most skilled at playing this rule set, not who's the most skilled at playing this period of history.
True.
In my opinion, anyway. Because you're not trying in a tournament, you're not trying to recreate history. You're not trying to. You guys, you went to that Napoleonic one recently, which was Black Powder, and you had a great time. And even it wasn't a tournament, was it? It was games days, but obviously it's not a recreation of history. It's who's the best Black Powder player at that point. You're not recreating historical matchups, are you? You're who's the best, who is the best general at this game, rather than who's recreating history. So I think the moment you know what I think about competition gaming anyway. But the moment you bring competition to it, it's who is the most skilled. That's it. It's who is the most skilled at this at this rule set. Not necessarily who is in the right. Because take the new release of Bolt Action, right? You've got people on the Warlord page moaning about, like, I don't know how many like assault rifles that they can get into. Like, it's just like, but they didn't have them because you're not building them historically. All it is just like, let's chuck as many assault rifles as we can. And I'm paraphrasing from what other people from the chat groups says, because I couldn't give a shit. That's taking the historical flavor out of it. Now, if you enjoy playing Bolt Action and you want to use that system to play competitions, go for it. Absolutely fine. But and you list build, that's absolutely fine. But it's who is the most skilled at that rule set, and that then is like, it's like chess. It's like, who is the best chess player? Who is and that's it. That's who is the best general using the parameters of this rule set.
Yeah, I saw lots of comments around. If you make them too generic, it just becomes chess.
I think, a good example. I told you about was an X-Wing tournament, and I played a guy in the Outpost in Sheffield, and I played him, and he beat me. And a couple of years later, we ended up playing the same player, this time in St. Helens. And I sat down, he was using the same list, and he set up the same way that he did when I played him previously.
Right.
And that was his thing. He'd played that list so many times. He knew how to set it up. He knew what maneuvers, and he knew where he was going to be sort of 3 or 4 turns in. And I thought that for me, that is tournament gaming. Like Martin said, he knew the rules. He knew his list. I just couldn't do that. I couldn't bring myself to play like that.
The same thing. We used to play 15 mil. Tournaments, ancient tournaments, and the particular, you had a 100-year war English army. The army would never move forward. It would just basically form up in a corner in the base of the table and sit there waiting for the enemy to come at it, because that was the strength of the army, was to be able to shoot you to pieces before you got into combat. And in a competition arena, that was kind of the only way to play them, because you'd be stupid to come out and march them down the table and try and actually move them around. Now, in a scenario-based thing where maybe they're having to raid an area or get off the table from a fortification or whatever it may be, that changes the whole ball game, doesn't it? You have to then play it in a different way. So, but I don't know. I mean, I think the one that comes back to me, because things like bolt action, things like Black Powder, Hail Caesar, anything that sort of has a very easy point system to build up is very easy to adapt as a competitive type game, isn't it? Because it's easy. It's got a point system. You could say, right, we're going to play 500 points a piece. We're going to play a random scenario and best man win. Or woman, for that matter, usually Haley. And if that's the case, then, but it also, the same rule system works equally well for you just to go, let's sling a few units on the table, let's come up with an impromptu scenario and play it out.
I agree to a certain extent. Bolt action was made with, I think, with the idea of tournament play in mind. Hail Caesar and Black Powder, when they first made those, it was like all there was a paragraph going, "Oh, this is how you could use points." And it was the supplements that really kind of brought that focus in. I mean, I still just like throwing stuff on the table, like we did when we I come around yours, and we were like, oh yeah, how many have you got? Oh, you got this many. All right, well, let's say this cannon is equivalent of your curtain or whatever, and we'll work that out. And how about what if she's marched this way with her pikemen? Now you have that. You're not going to do that in a tournament, are you? And it's just people can play whatever the hell they want, but at that point, you're using the rules to play a competition, not play the period. I'm not trying to paraphrase the Lardies, but you could play bolt action, and obviously you could use things for multiple periods, multiple systems. I've seen people use orcs in bolt action, which I thought was X, but at that point, you're just do you see what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well, but I think it's interesting what people do with them. Competitions, and competitions, it really just seems to come down to me. It comes down to who is the better at list building and who is the better person at using that rule set to win, which is what the whole point of the tournament is.
But then I think we're talking you're talking specifically about competitions here, but I'm thinking also about those games that people like to play. I'm one of them, I have to admit, where I'll say, well, let's play a game next week down the club. What should we do? Let's do Napoleonic Black Powder. You bring 500 points of figures. I'll bring 500. We'll set it at 1812, and we'll take it from the Clash of Eagles thing. And it's an even matchup. It's even in sense of the rules. Now, we have a damn good fun game usually. It's not trying to stomp somebody into the ground, but it's an even battle. And the rules play just as well that way for me as they do if
the rules scenario. I thought you meant in a tournament setting versus a.
It could be.
So yeah, they will because I don't think. I think some rule sets are built with list building in mind. Saga is one, which is very light list building. Bolt action is built with lists in mind. Yeah.
X-Wing was just lists.
There seems to be quite a lot. I mean, from some of those sort of fantasy systems seem to be very much around. Oathmark is very much around list building. You can optimize your troops the way you want them to be. So, are they? I mean, I think what I'm trying to say is it something that could a rule set? I mean, I think rule sets. I'm answering my own question here, but I think most rule sets can play either way and give a good game either way. You don't have to be a specific competitive, equal kind of setup rules. But then I'm interested: are there rule sets that only really work in a scenario-based system? That actually you have to play it in a way that reflects a real campaign or a real scenario, and they kind of do the other thing but not as well, or that way around. I don't know. I'm interested.
Can I just go out, because I've seen what Lazy Pirate Painting and Carla said, and I think they've misunderstood what I'm actually getting at. Nope. I'm not saying that people who go to tournaments are there just smash the competition. What I'm saying is when you go to the tournament, when you're doing the social aspect of the thing, if you're going there to meet people, absolutely fine. But the way the events are organised is who is going to win at playing this rule set, not who is going to win at doing the best representation of Quatre Bras. Do you see what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that like everyone who goes to these things just wants to like punch everyone's face into the table and walk away. Like, although there will be some of those people, I've just done the best list. What I'm saying is that the tournaments to me are more a reflection of the skill at using said rule set rather than representing, shall we say, history if it's a historical war game.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily. I mean, you're right. If that's your intention, is to reflect historical game, but I also think, having done a lot of competitive games and points-based games, you can still play a game and think, right, this is a historical game, without sort of having to stamp somebody into the ground and win at all costs, for sure. But the whole point of a competition, in most cases, is the fact you're there to win it, or at least to do well in it.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, it's a casual game.
Otherwise, it's casual game. Exactly,
so,
exactly right.
So that's completely right. Yes, that's what I said.
So I agree with you.
I completely agree. You can have points. You can have points list and have a historical matchup and do that, because the armies will fight in that way. But at the moment, I think that you bring and because then ultimately everyone plays to win.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't. You kind of go, I don't care if I'm winning or I'm losing. You might say I don't give a toss, but it's nice to win.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to who. I mean, I suck at bolt action. That's why I don't like it particularly. I hate it because it doesn't do what I want it to do, and it frustrates the hell out of me. Whether or not it's a good representation of World War II warfare, I could give a toss, because I don't know enough about it. I don't particularly like bolt action. I don't like it because of its representation of World War II. I don't like it because it drives me mental when I'm playing it. Whereas games like Saga, which have no basis in reality whatsoever, I've got no issue playing and representing Viking warfare, because it's a take on the sagas. It's a take on, here's the big man leading it, Beowulf and all of that. That's the whole point of it. These lunatics who go, Saga's not historically accurate. Like, you joking, you can play an ability called Valhalla where your people kill themselves and Thor will strike them down. Some games are built the way they are, and they'll get their player base. And there are those of us that don't mind playing, whatever rule set, because of course you can play mob. I've seen people. There's a group I keep on meaning to go to in the Hearts Volunteers, and they use Hail Caesar, but use parts of Nevermind the Billhooks within it to represent things like random events and stuff. So we can borrow things from events, but you would never do that, obviously, if you went to a competition, would you?
No. And also, that again, one of the things you find with any of these rule sets, and particularly when you start house ruling them, is if you then go and play with other people and they don't do the same house rules or they don't do the same adaptations, it becomes, you spend 20 minutes at the beginning of the game. So which variation of the rules are you playing here? Right? Agreeing. Actually, John makes a good point. So is O Group the game that works best as a scenario based? I know they're points, but they're a fast and loose game. Yeah, I actually think you're right, John. I think they are better as a scenario type. But then again, you can play it. They're designed really to have a game of attack and defense. So one side takes defense, one takes attack, but you can play it both attacking if you want to. But yeah, it's a good point. And CJ says, my friend Carl's rule set Contact Front is a brilliant, primarily scenario driven and very narrative based modern game. Can't really see it working well with two purely balanced forces. That sounds like a good one. Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I wondered is, there are those that are purely that or purely other ways. It's interesting. I think it sometimes comes over that we can be a bit tough on competition gaming, and that's not absolutely not the case at all.
Not at all. But it's just going back. It's going back to the original question, which is, can the rule set be used for both? And the answer is yes. It's just that what you're using the rule set for differs at that point.
Yeah, and also I think sometimes it's our own inability to. And I use myself as an example of playing a scenario where you are so heavily outnumbered and your objective is just to try and survive for a certain length of time before you die. I find those sort of scenarios really tough. I don't like them at all. I want to have at least a chance to do reasonably well, even if it's a very slim chance.
Love that. See, I love that. I like doing that. But then I think that might just be my subconscious punishing me for what.
Probably right. I think that's great. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments that people have had, because there's been some great ones, and I've been trying to star away as we've gone. Let's head back to the beginning. Here we go. So, Bukari says, I've liked every rule set I've played. Fan rules too, except some weird fan version of Hail Caesar for the War of the Roses. I wonder who he means from that. That was pretty miserable. He likes every rule set he's played, except a weird fan version of Hail Caesar for War of the Roses. I mean, I love the fact. Okay, so this is a slight version. I've seen lots of people talk about house ruling. We've talked about house ruling systems. You've done a brilliant job, I think, with the Hail Caesar War of the Roses system. Is there a point that you spend your, I'm going on Ken here, you spend your 30-40 quid on a rule set and then you've got to adapt them to make them how you want to play? Is that a failure of the rules, or is that a good thing for the rules?
No, it's a failure in you to accept something. That's a failure in you to accept something. It's not their responsibility to write a set of rules to satisfy just you, because the majority of their audience, it's like, it wasn't Rick Priestley's job to satisfy me. No. He created a system, and I still use the majority of that system. It's just that there's things that I made adaptations that I think better reflect warfare at that period. And in particular, the warfare at that period is kind of dictated in a way by the personalities of the big players in the game. So I felt that they should have some more of an effect on what was going on, rather than just go, he's got strategy rating of 6 or whatever. But that's down to the individual. that's my inability to accept what he's done, and the Perrys did, and they were perfectly happily gaming it, and they know probably more about the Wars of Roses than me. And a lot of people know more about the Wars of Roses than me, and they're perfectly fine playing those rules or other rules. Yep. So I think for those of us who are passionate about a subject and know about it, so for you it could be Napoleonic Steers, World War II. You when someone writes something, you say, but I want to really represent that, and they haven't done that. Well, they probably didn't really feel the need to, because they've completed their brief, and if you want to add to it, if you can easily add to it, then that's surely a strength for the game.
Yeah.
Rather than having to rewrite a whole system, you go, we'll just add this and this. There you go. It's done. Like adding the idea that the horses become blown, so you don't get the benefit of lances every single fucking time they charge. Which, if you go with the base rules, they do.
Yeah.
Which just seems ludicrous. But yeah, so.
Victor's with you. He says, agrees with Martin. Failure is mine. I think most people make rules. I think that people make rules set. I think that people make rules have a set page limit. Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, and just think about the stuff that has been removed. I mean, how much when someone develops a new wargames rule set, how much do we not see? How much isn't put in the final book?
How much gets cut out because of playtesting and makes it too complicated? Or because it is, again, it's that balance, isn't it, between playability, accuracy, giving the rules what they want. But all rules set, I mean, we've had Rich on here many times talking about he has in his mind what he wants, and Dave Brown as well. The game clearly is in their head of what they want to see on the table, and that's what they built to.
Take Mike Peters, who we had in here, who wrote Ruckus, who's a wargamer who's just released those rules, you know, and he's gone through the whole process. They released Ruckus as a free supplement, and I think it's about 30 pages long. He has like 120 pages of stuff. Yeah. Mounted stuff had to get cut out, or certain traits had to get cut out. The campaign system got cut out, and it'll all be coming down the line. But you know, somebody's idea, and Alex has just said exactly what I was going to say. Something that you've written on the page doesn't always translate well to the tabletop.
Yeah,
and some idea that you've got in your head doesn't always work well. And you've got and you just, you know, because in your head you're like, oh, these guys should do this. And you're like, well, that doesn't really work, does it? In the confines of an asymmetrical battle, like, you know,
no, true,
on a game. Because if I do it this way, that kind of buggers up what that unit can do, or vice versa. You know, or if I let them skip, if I roll disorder and your unit can't move for 2 fucking turns. Sorry, I'll keep on swearing. It's not like an elephant has run through them. Some guy just tripped on a bush. You know, we're going back to our game where we had that 25-minute long debate with Miller.
Yes.
You know, and it's like it's not, you know, little things like that cause have a massive effect. If you play it the way that played it, it's really detrimental. If you play it the way it's meant to be played, it's just like a minor inconvenience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, so absolutely, stuff that's on the page doesn't always translate that well.
Completely. John says, I think the Lardies have an idea. Very similar mechanics shared between rules. Think Mud and Blood and Sharp Practice, but the flavor is in the detail. Yeah. I think partly that's it, because it reflects how they want the rules to play, isn't it? And partly it's ease, I guess. As a player, it kind of works. It's the same we talked about, you know, with Black Powder and the various other iterations of that. There's certain similarities that you can remember. Same with O Group and the various things that Dave's done. Very similar mechanics all the way through. Sometimes for somebody like me, I get completely lost because it's like I play Hail, Pike and Black Powder kind of thing. It's just like I'll play versions of all 3 because I'll forget. But
it's like that rule that the thing that me and Robin found out, which is that in Hail CC, you could, you know, the retreating and the give ground are completely different to the other games. They have a massive effect on the game. But we assumed that they were like the others, but we probably should have done that. And now I've actually got to think about things. Whereas before it's like, they'll be fine. Like, no, they'll be absolutely. Most of our games have probably been over by about turn 4 because people are just going to be mad. You know, this game with the Carthaginians and that, I think that the Romans are going to be buzzsawing their way through the Carthaginians. Like, now I know that, so I'm going to have to change my tactics.
I mean, that's an interesting thing. I mean, Steve, you had the same thing. How many times have you played a rule system or played a set of rules for years and years and years, and then suddenly somebody points out something that you absolutely never noticed in there, and you think, how did I miss that?
Probably War 40k second edition. We just wanted to get figures on the table and, you know, rules. Yeah, we'll read the rules at some point. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of clangers that we got wrong playing that. Do you think that's a sign of a good game though, where everything is clearly written and it's not open to interpretation, or it can't be? It's very, very unambiguous. Do you think that's a sign of a good rule set?
I think if everything's got an answer, like, for example, if someone's poisoned, you're like, what does poison do? And then you go, oh, poison does this. Whereas if it's missing, which is like a game I played, and we had to go, oh, well, you lose 1 wound a round until he's dead, or something like, you know, then yes, that would be, I guess that's the idea, isn't it? I mean, you want to have most of your questions answered. You know, general questions like, I don't know, how do I order a unit? How far does a unit move? Does it have 360 line of sight, or 180 or 45 or whatever? How do I resolve shooting? How do I do a break test?
Yeah,
those things should be really easily answered, which should be your core mechanics. They should be easily referenced and easily answered, right? And then you can start worrying about like the nitty gritty, but you need to have the basics down first. So yeah, I think a rule system should be, especially if it's period specific, I'd say more so.
Yeah. I think also I would say illustrations and diagrams in the things to show this, because how many times you think I've got that, and then you play it and someone says, oh no, it doesn't do that. Actually, what you mean is this happens, and actually if there's an illustration you can look at and go, oh yeah, that's how it plays. I think that helps me a lot. And I don't think there's enough illustrations in rule books myself. The more the merrier, I think. Almost like if they actually, like in the old days in magazines and things, you used to get these sort of game playthroughs where they literally walked you through turn by turn by turn, so you can see how it played out. I think that's really helpful for me.
I always like the ones in role-playing games where it would be like Dom. It's Dom's turn. Dom says, I'm going to run up to the campfire and, I'm going to kick it at the evil goblin. Steve says, are you sure, Dom? That strikes me as a bad plan. Martin says, go on, do it. The DM. And then in like different color, it would say, Dom rolls the dice. You fall and burn yourself.
Dom falls flat on his face because he's pissed and lands in the fire. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I used to love the old school White Dwarf battle reports. They were absolutely classic. The symbols, yeah. It was just such a good way of portraying the game.
I love all those sort of things. To me, I grew up on all those sort of things. I think it's just brilliant to see those sort of stage-by-stage games. James said, forgetting rules and making up your interpretation on the spot mid-game is part of the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest... But again, then we get really hung up about accuracy and the fact these rules don't reflect, and then we spend loads of the time just making things up on the spot, or deciding that we'll just roll a d6 and 1, 2, 3 this happens, 4, 5, 6 this happens.
What would you say? What rule set is the one where you've gone back to the most throughout a game?
I mean, I have to say the whole kind of black powder pike and shot Hail Caesar is one that gets me every freaking time, because they are so similar that the number of times I read. So, what am I allowed to do with my CNC in this rule? I've forgotten, and I have to go and look back. Even though I've played them hundreds of games about all the systems, all 3 of the systems, pretty much, I still have to go back and look at them.
That is almost a case of just being too similar.
That's exactly it. But they're similar, but they're not. That's where I'm coming back with these things and thinking, well, if they were exactly the same, it would actually make the rules much easier to play. But would it make the games any better? I don't know.
But yeah, because in Hail Caesar, they like the role of a general. You don't have a command CNC. He's a commander of a division. He's a commander of a division, he actually adds dice to combat, whereas if pike and shot, they don't. They add to the combat resolution. And obviously they can only go up by certain bonuses, but they want to represent like Alexander and Edward IV and people like really spurring their men on, and the idea, the stereotypical idea, not necessarily the reality, is that those guys get stuck in like did a lot more for their men than in later periods where the general was sipping wine up on the hill. Generally, not all the time. Like generally. So yeah, I think. But then are they sometimes? I guess when people are, we play a lot of different periods, don't we? We play a lot of periods. You play all 3. Whereas there will be some players that will just play in it, or they'll have Hail Caesar.
Or if you only ever play Second World War, you probably feel much more comfortable playing various different rule sets because there'll be similarities, I guess. But yeah, the one rule set I would say, and it's not even a war game. It's a card game. It's Android Netrunner. I don't think I played a single game of that where we didn't spend at least half the time check it up, because it's an asymmetric game. So there's your opponent's going to be playing a completely different way to how you. So one player plays the big global corporation that's putting up, firewalls and protection, and the other person plays as a hacker that's got a hacked up, and it's
One of you is Elon Musk.
And no matter how many times I used to read the rules before we were playing, I would sit down, right, we both know the rules now. Yeah, right. Yeah. 10 minutes in, we were like, oh, it's just my brain just couldn't. I'm normally quite good at remembering rules, but with Netrunner, I struggled constantly. Really,
I honestly think I actually don't trust anybody who kind of just goes, oh, it's this. and you go, well, you sure? And they go, yeah, it's page 45. I don't believe them. I just fundamentally, I think, because I can't remember them.
So
Rich
they're not-
says quite.
So they're
Rich
not one to
quite
play
lightly
poker
says,
with.
yeah, exactly. No rule set survives contact with a war game. Absolutely right, Rich.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
David says Newbury rules. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, yeah, you're mad if you're playing those rules, to be fair. James says squares in black powder get me every time. Yeah, I agree. But again, it depends which version you're playing, right? If you're playing,
that's it. See, I use because in the main rule book, I think it's too easy to get into square.
Yeah.
So I use the bit from Clash of Eagles where you've actually got to pass just a normal command check, because otherwise, because even though they did get to square a fair bit, so I want my cavalry to do something. Not that it ever actually works, but you know. Alex, no, it's not an enslaved shirt. It's a Helsing shirt.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah. Andrew says Blood Bowl. Have to check the book several times, several dozen times a game. Carl says War Games Research Group's 6th edition Ancients. Blimey. You're retro, mate. Well done. War Games History says...
Have to check muskets and tomahawks.
Oh, yeah.
The spotting thing, the column.
Every time, the spotting. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
War Game History says Grand Manor and General de Brigade, always mixing them up. Yeah, absolutely. I actually think when things are a family of systems, sort of family of rule sets, that's where I get completely confused.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's have a look at some of the other comments while we're here. By the way, I'm wearing the CrackCon 5 t-shirt. Anybody's wants
Darren Crack again.
Darren Crack again. If anybody wants one of those, it's for charity. So I'll put the link in the chat when I can find it. Unless one of you gentlemen find it first. Dietrich says there are shallow and deep rule sets, but each one has its own challenges. List building, maneuvering, resource management. I don't think there's a rule set I don't think a rule set could gracefully have them all. Yep. Again, I think it just comes back to what you're after in a game, right? How authentic do you want it to be? Well, not even authentic. Or how much does it? Because I don't think any rule set's totally authentic. It's how much does it reflect how you want to play the game, or how you think it should be played.
Your perception. Anyway,
and also your opponents and people you play with, because let's be honest, we all make allowances for the people some of us do make allowances for the rules for the people we play with to play systems that they like as well, don't we, Martin?
I make allowances. What are you on about? I make allowances all the time. Have you seen what I have to work with?
That's true. Yeah, you have Robin.
He's going to kick the shit out of me tomorrow.
He will. He absolutely will. You're dead. Here you go. Tremontium Hobbies. You can 100% do this. I think that means having one rule set that works for everything. We've been crafting a rule set that can cover different periods for the past 3 years. Interesting. If you're still in the chat, mate, let us know what periods you're talking about for that, because I'm genuinely interested, because I think there's a lot to be said for me, certainly as I get older. And I know Alec down the club laughs about this a lot. He says, I get older, I can't remember any of the rules. I get simpler and simpler in my rule system. So if you've got one rule set you can learn to play and play all different periods, and it's fun, I'm quite happy with that. So let us know. What else we got here? Yorkshire. He's back on his wallet again. If I played Black Powder with 15 supplements, I'd feel like someone has stolen my wallet rather than having a realistic game. Yeah, but that's you, Ken. That's you. I quite like supplements. I think they give a real history, and I love the books themselves. Like I've got all the Bolt Action books. Never played any of them particularly, but I love the books. They're really interesting. Duke Wellington said, I have a friend who writes very simple rules, but has the flavour of the period and also adds the country tactics of the day. Lots of people out there doing their own rules.
Post them up. Post them in the group. Yeah.
Please do.
There's loads of people who will very happily play them.
Please do.
Everyone's always looking for a rule set.
We all love rule sets, and I think we
Yeah.
all take different things from rule sets, don't we? Yeah.
Yes.
Lionheart says, I think there's a fine line between war games and
absolutely,
simulations. Yeah. Absolutely right, mate. Absolutely right. David says, are skirmish games easier to use a generic spine? I think we're talking about different, having the same basic rule system. Is it easier with a skirmish game?
No, I'd say it's the opposite.
The opposite,
personally. I don't know any skirmish games that I mean, the only skirmish game I think uses the same system that I know. Well, say again, skirmish. If you're talking, Saga obviously uses the same system, but then the expansions usually change. So in Muskets and Tomahawks, that's the same system, but expansions change it.
Yes.
If we go down a level to things like, because I was reading the Spectre rulebook, so I picked that up after all those things we were looking at, and I was looking at that going, okay, this is going to take some fathoming, mate. No, again, it just depends on what you're trying to go for. If you're trying to recreate, what a squad is doing in Vietnam, at that level, at the squad level, then there's going to be a lot of factors if you're trying to do it realistically, I guess.
True.
Quite a lot of factors that you wouldn't consider. But then if you were doing it at a divisional level, then again, there'd be things that you don't have to consider because one person doesn't matter at a divisional level.
Yeah, agreed. All right. I've loved it. It's been really interesting. And I've been working my way through a nice bottle of red wine. So I'm a little bit happy. So it's all good.
You've got work tomorrow.
I have, but, it's only work, right? Let's have a little bit of breather. We're coming towards the end of the show. So let's have a look at some of the pictures that people have put up on the Facebook page. As I mentioned before, if you're not a member of the Facebook page, why not? Please follow on the link down below and answer the 3 very, very simple questions. It's just there to stop spammers and people trying to buy stuff, offers, and just answer that and join. If you don't use Facebook, then you can always email us some pictures at the email address that's also down below, the plastic crack what? The plastic crack podcast at gmail.com, I think it is. Talking about that, old school FRP emailed in his pictures of his Mexican infantry.
Very nice.
That's a period you don't see very often.
Nice.
Very nice
We
indeed.
like them.
Jonathan, he's gone upscale. He's off 50.
I saw this earlier. This looks so cool.
Wow.
I mean, wowza. The Battle of Atfield Farm in 54mm ACW is a whole section of pictures he put up on the page.
Oh, yeah. It looks so good.
Really, really good indeed. What's happened there? Also, Matt, he's been inspired by the new Gladiator 2 trailer to do this.
That's very cool.
That is very, very nice.
That's very cool. And actually looks better than anything in that trailer, I'd like to add.
What do you mean, rhinos? They got rhinos. That's
offensive. The rhino doesn't bother me. That doesn't actually bother me, the rhino. I think that looks hilarious. I think that looks like good fun. I'll watch that. I don't mind the rhino. No, we won't get into this now. You've only got 2
No, we're not going to talk about that. No, stop now. I mean, I talk about weird shit, but look at this from Dan.
Oh, yes.
What scale?
That's 10mm.
It is 10mm.
Is
Vermin Lord. It's a Vermin Lord at 10mm.
I think it... Yeah.
But is that just like... It's a Vermin Lord at 10mm, but is that like a normal size Skaven at 28?
Possibly.
Because the Vermin Lords are massive, aren't they?
They are massive.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
I thought so. That is so cool. No, I bet it's 10mm. That is wicked.
That
is very cool.
That is very nice.
Also, we've got this is Martin's.
Wow.
So cool.
Just wow. I just love that. I mean, I can't work out this one closest to us with a sickle. I mean, Just very odd. Love
Have
it.
you the latest Magic the Gathering set is essentially burrows and badgers.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's all animals.
My goodness me. Paul has been working on his epics.
Ooh, nice.
Very nice
Very
indeed.
nice. Very nice. Could you paint up like 20 more bases like that, please, and send them here by tomorrow?
By tomorrow. Okay. Neil has been doing his US Rangers, and I think he was using bits and bobs to recreate Band of Brothers, wasn't it? But not Band of Brothers.
Saving Private Ryan.
Save It Private Ryan. That's it. And they're really nice models. The whole section of them he showed off really good indeed. Phil has been working on his 20mm British.
Oh, nice.
I do like. I love the basing on those.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Really, really cool. I love these eccentric officers from Roger.
These are brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the guy on the right wearing?
Chewbacca by the looks of
It
things.
looks like it. The fact he's got a massive beard as well was even better. So just amazing. Warren, these are his 15mm Confederacy of the Rhine Regiment.
Sweet.
Very nice.
Indeed.
There's
Nice.
quite a lot of that coming through at the minute.
There is. Yeah, really good. Nice to see. And then Edward. This is his 76 Pennsylvanians, I believe it is. Well, I know it is because I wrote it down.
Oh, they're nice, aren't they?
Fabulous. Really good.
Very cool.
Our missing colleague is working on ACWs for some reason at the moment. So,
well, you say that, but he did post up. I saw him post up in a group asking if he could buy an entirely painted ACW army.
True.
Hold on a second.
That didn't slip with us.
Did I dream this? But didn't Ken once own a big...
Yes.
He did.
Yeah, he swapped it with VK, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah,
he
he swapped it for Normans. And then we broke his heart when we told them that they were essentially Vikings.
Yeah, exactly right. I love this. Stig was showing off his Agincourt figures. I mean, just amazing. Really, really good.
Lovely.
And we're going to finish with a bit of retro. This is Tim's 15mm. There's a mixture of minifig and Zan miniatures. I mean, minifigs. You got to love minifig figures, right? Well, if you're as old as me, I love them. Fantastic. So thank you for everyone who shows their stuff. As I say, it's just a selection of stuff we see. And if you want to be included, put it up on the Facebook page and we will try and include as much as we can. And also, if you don't use Facebook, then send us on the email. That is it, gentlemen. We are time. Gentlemen, please. I hope you have a good evening. I have too. I've worked my way through the bottle of wine. I've enjoyed myself immensely. Thank you.
I've enjoyed myself. It's been good. It didn't quite go as feral as I thought it was going to go.
That's feral. Oh, good stuff. Thank you for everyone watching. Really, really appreciate all the input and all the involvement as ever. Really happy with that. And also to all those watching on follow-up on, we really appreciate you too. Remember, if you need to buy any goodness in your wargaming hobby, visit Boards and Swords website. Use PCP5 to get an additional 5% off. We've got a week off next week. Martin's away, and it's my daughter's graduation, so I'm away as well. So unless Steve wants to do it on his own, we are going to be back the following week.
Well, I'm still away the following week, but
be one of us. We'll let you know where.
Yeah. I got 2 weeks off for good behaviour.
2 weeks off, bloody hell! So thanks to everyone who joined us. Have a really good couple of weeks, and we will see you. Not sure when, but we'll let you know. Have a really good couple of weeks. Enjoy your gaming. Enjoy your painting. We'll see you again soon.
See you later.
See you, everyone.
Bye bye.